All right, so I wanted to welcome everyone to this webinar on boosting practice profit through actionable intelligence. We're really happy to have the team and our friends at Dental Intel on with us today, and they've been gracious enough to share this excellent platform, which can really revolutionize your practice, and they've done wonders for thousands of practices across the country. So the way I see it, it's kind of like when you're walking at the airport and you see that special lounge that they have for business travelers, and you're always like, wow, I wish I could get into that lounge. I'm sure they have great food, they have relaxing massage chairs and all of that, but I just don't have that card to get in. And we want you guys to be in that high flyers club and be part of that group that's really doing the best that they can to boost their practice profit and having great results. So that's the point of today's webinar. And I have with me today Curtis at Dental Intel, and he's been doing this for several years, has a lot of knowledge to share with us today, you know, a lot of action tips as well. And so Curtis is going to be showing us how this solution really works and can do wonders for your practice. So I'll turn it over to Curtis at this point, and he can share a little bit about Dental Intel and then how this solution can work for you.
Thank you, Neel. And in that club that you're talking about, there's free drinks too that we have. So, well, good. Well, I have a good friend who always said, you know what? If you don't have a good walk-on song, you're never going to be good. So, thank you everybody for being on today. My name is Curtis Marshall with Dental Intelligence. It's amazing how sound and music really play into presentation, right? All the senses, having as much information, everything that you can as possible into a situation. Well, guess what? Today we've got the audio. We've got video here, the PowerPoint. We also have video. You can see behind me that we got a little cloud cover over our mountains. But I'm based out of Utah, and you can see the scenery behind me. You can also see that Neel's also at home, right? Emily and Jen are also here, but you can see so much. We're also going to be able to use the chat today. The reason why I bring all this up in a presentation is because the same scenario goes within a practice. That if you really want to boost your profits and to have the best experience on doing so, it's more than just the typical one straight way. We're going to add music, we're going to add video, we're going to add presentation, we're going to add the audio, we're going to add conversation. All of those things you're going to see on how they're so important within your practice. So Neel, thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Definitely, we're excited.
Yeah, so one great thing that Neel and his team, when they reached out to me and said, hey guys, you have a great platform, we'd love to see if we can link up with you. I was really excited for that because we do gather some great information from dental offices, and then we reposition it and say, do this today instead of doing something in the past. I mean, for example, all doctors who are here listening, if you produced, I'm sure you know what you produced last month, but let's say you produced $100,000 last month, right? What can you do today to increase that $100,000 so that you can get more profits? The answer, whatever you produced last month, the answer is you can do nothing. You already produced it. You can't change and do more last month. Now this month we can do something different, but you cannot do something more that's already happened in the past. Which is why when we gather the data from Practice Web and clean it up and say, do this today, it's all of a sudden a light bulb's going off, and we now have music, we have audio, we have video, we have a presentation. There's so much more information that we can have at our fingertips to have a better experience on gaining more profits. Huge to realize. Now, here's what's shocking, is we look at multiple practice management softwares out there, multiple of them. And a lot of times we tell the software, the practice management system, saying, sorry, your data is too dirty. We can't even clean it up. The software on the end is so bad, we can't even clean it up. Well, guess what? Neel and his team at Practice Web, you guys have some of the cleanest data we've ever seen. This is an amazing software. So we're glad that we're able to pull this information out, and it's easily being able to transform to tell you in your office what to do today. That's what we're going to be doing, is letting you know what to do today. If you have questions throughout this webinar, please chat. We've got a couple people that can answer these, but please shoot us a chat. Now, as we go through here, Neel, is there something you want to say on that?
No, I wanted to encourage everyone on that point just to really ask questions, because this is really for you and to really understand how this solution can solve the challenges that you're facing in your practice. So there may be things that we're not even aware of or we're not covering. So just please be sure to be very, very active participants, and that'll make it very useful for you.
Thank you. So if we're talking about profits now, I want you to realize the formula. Before we even jump into the whole situation here, I want you to understand the background, the foundation of getting more profits. Now, if I were to ask any office, hey, how do you get more profits? Well, I'll get a variety of things that people will say or mention. But there's really only 4 areas. And if you have a pen and paper, please write these down, because this is going to change your thought process and really help you to get more profits quicker. And whenever we get more profits in a practice, we're actually taking better care of our patients. Profits equals better care for our patients every time. Okay, so the 4 steps or 4 different areas I want you to write down is: first, write down the word visits. VISITS. Times production per visit. We just quickly do PPV, production per visit. Times collection percentage, not collections, but collection percentage, and we'll hit that for a hot minute here in a second. Minus overhead equals profits. Those 4, that's the 4, everything in your practice when it comes to building actionable metrics or building systems within your practice or increasing patient care or increasing profits, they all will fall into one of those 4 buckets. Okay, so write those, like I said, write those down, and we're going to discover in your practice which lever is the best lever to pull. Is it going to be profits, collection, excuse me, I went backwards. Is it going to be visits, production per visit, collection percentage, or overhead? Which is it for your practice? Because your practice is different than every other practice out there. Now, true, you're working on dental teeth, I understand, but yours is so different. And that's what makes the dental industry great, is that we're all have unique practices. Let's see here. So one thing that we're going to be going over today is what's called the growth platform. At Dental Intel, we have many different products, but the growth platform is something that this is the product that we want to really show you, because this is the platform, the system that you can use to increase growth quickly and easily. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually jump into our software and show you a few different areas on how this works. Okay, so first I'm going to go like this. You can see this okay, right, Neel?
Yep, I can see that.
Perfect. So this is when my family's practice. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at last month. You can change to any time frame you want. But what it shows for us here, it shows us a lot of quick, easy information. Without me even doing much, I can see that January I've been trending up. Shows me exactly what happened for the last 13 weeks, excuse me, how much I produced. If I want to dive into any of this, it's really simple to do that. If I want to dive in and see what production this gross production equals, all I need to do is come in here to the source data, and it brings up all of this information, all of the patient information, like who the patient is, how much was charged out, I'm blurring out the actual patient information, but the provider, the date, how much was scheduled, how much was completed, everything for you, so much so you can even export it to CSV or Excel. Now, as I was talking about, in this there's 4 different areas to be increasing on. I can increase more visits or more production per visit were the first 2. In this office, we can see that visits have been increasing lately. Now, compared to January last year, they decreased a little bit, but overall, they're doing really well on visits right now. So the next question is, do they want to take better care of visits or production per visit? Well, look at their production per visit. Their production per visit is lower than right now. It's trending down. Now, not by much, but it's trending down. So we can now say, oh, this is the lower hanging fruit in this office. I can now increase what's called production per visit. Well, how do you increase production per visit? Feel free to use the chat if you're available. How would somebody increase production per visit in a practice? Now, this is something that is very interesting. So if I come in to your practice today as a patient for hygiene, I'm going to be doing roughly $150 worth of work. To get me back into the practice, it costs more effort, more time, right? So if I want to increase my production per visit for myself, I could, or you could, one way is get me to do maybe fluoride. Or if I have perio, get me to accept perio. In this office, they have 11% perio. You could get me into perio. You could do a full FMX, a pano. Those are certain ways to increase production per visit. Okay, I'm just going to double check. I haven't seen any questions come through yet, which is fine, or answers come through yet. Some other ways to increase production per visit is simply by doing same-day dentistry. Hey, you're already here. Let's get you in, because if I get you in right now, number 1, you're going to get it done. But number 2, you're not going to leave. I'm not going to have to call you, try to get you back in, hopefully get you back in for another day. If I get you in today and get it done, my production per visit goes up tremendously. Another easy one that's like a little hidden secret is what's called your fee schedule. You could simply increase your fee schedule, and that's going to increase your production per visit. Now, what's nice is that I'm gonna be able to show you at the end of this webinar. You are going to be able. One of the things you're going to be able to get is to look at your personal fees, what your fees are, compared to all the fees throughout the country, and you're going to be able to see where you land, what percentile you are at, and if you want to be increasing your fees. We're going to give that to you at no charge today.
Yeah, that's just an amazing opportunity to get that type of intelligence. I mean, that's something that most dentists would kill for.
And the way that we're pulling it out is so much more accurate than what anyone else has ever, even the ADA is looking, speaking with us right now on saying, hey, we actually want to start sharing the fee schedule the way that Dental Intel is. Because once again, what we've done is we've cleaned it up. And we're now saying, this is what's going on. Do this instead of asking for a random report. So Neel, that's a great point, is that that's a great service that, and we're able to do that because of you guys. So thank you, Neel.
Yep.
Now, Neel, if we're looking at, so we already looked at visits, production per visit a little bit. What would you say, and we didn't talk about this in the past, we didn't, but what would you say would be the number, if somebody were to say, I want more visits in a practice, if a dentist says, hey, I want to get more patients to come in, what would be their first answer? Would you guess would be their first answer that they would say, oh, I want more visits, we're going to do X.
Marketing.
Marketing to get new patients.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Now, when I get new patients, I should be increasing something called active patients. Would you agree?
That's correct.
So if I have 3,000, let's just make the numbers easy, 3,000 active patients right now, and I get 50 new patients in the month of January, at the end of January, I should have how many active patients?
You should have more. So about what? You're asking me to do math now, but
Sorry,
30. Yeah,
let's
three.
make the numbers easy. 3,000 instead of this
Yeah.
real number.
So 3,050.
That ultimately, we would think that that would be the case.
Yep.
Correct? Well, how we're calculating active patients here, and each metric has a little explanation, is that they're marked active within the management system. They're marked active and complete an appointment in less 18 months. Okay? So throughout the month, I'm going to get 50, but also I might be calling patients that haven't been in for 18 months and bringing them back in that month. So it should be higher than 50 more. It should be like 60, 70 plus more, correct?
Correct.
Well, let's see what this office did. This office had 56 new patients in the month of January. And all of our beautiful faces are in my way. There we go. 56 new patients, right? They recaptured 19. That's what I was saying, like, hey, there's 19 patients that they hadn't seen in 18 months, but in the month of January, they brought them back in. So let me see if I can do this math. That's 60, 75. So adding those two together should be 75 more active patients. But that's not what we got, was it, Neel? How many new patients did we grow by?
It's showing 56 there.
56 is what?
New patients.
New patients, yep. We got 56 new patients. We recaptured 19, meaning we brought 19 patients that we haven't seen in 18 months back into the practice. But we did not increase our active patient base by 75, those two added together.
That's true.
We increased our active patients by how many?
19.
Wow. Because we lost 56 patients. So if you really want to increase your visits, it's not about new patients. It's taking care of your existing patients.
And this is what they call in dentistry the backdoor problem. People are coming in through the front door. You're spending all this money marketing to get new patients, whether it's through social media, and you're heavily focused, rightly so, on your online reviews and your Google ads and pay-per-click and all of that. But you're losing patients out the back door. And if you're not tracking these metrics and acting upon them, then it's like you're just treading water and you're not really going anywhere.
Yeah, it's so true. So if we look at this right here, this is a year over year, month over month showing us. So for example, in June of 2019, right? We got 39 new patients. Actually, I need to add this status change right here. June, 39 new patients, 16 recaptured. So we pulled 16 from that we saw 18 months ago. They finally came in. But we lost 52 plus 26. 52 fell in that bucket. We hadn't seen them in 18 months. 26 patients we physically marked inactive because they died, they moved, or we just simply don't like them anymore, and so we marked them inactive. Our growth rate for that month, Neel, our active patients grew by how much? Even though we got 39 new patients and recaptured 16, what was our growth?
Yeah, it's a negative growth of 23.
Crazy. This just blows my mind every time I see it. Is because this is something that we've never looked at in dentistry for the last 100 years. We're focusing on new patients, right? We focus on, oh, hey, how's that going? And possibly sometimes we look at the status change, but very rarely do we look at the whole picture together. Now that I see that this is happening, I now have some action plans that I want to do. One of my first action plans is making sure that everybody has a future appointment, right? And in every dental office, Neel, If I say you have, excuse me, let's see here. Let's go to active patients. So in this office, they have this many active patients. 50% have a future appointment. If I say we want to increase this number, we want to increase your active patients with the future appointment, what would you say the very first thing? And once again, I should have asked you these questions, but so far you're 1 for 1, you're 100%. Let's go again though. If I were to ask, you're the dentist, and I were to say, Dr. Neel, you need to, you got 50% of your active patients with the future appointment. We want to increase the number of your patients with the future appointment. What would be the first thing that you would say, oh, I need to do X?
I need to, yeah, I mean, my hunch, and I could be wrong on this, but my hunch is you need to make sure you're getting those pre-appointments handled during the checkout process after a patient is finishing that current recall. Make sure they're getting their next recall scheduled, and there's a lot of strategies to do that, and but that's hugely important.
Okay, you passed the real test. Everybody, I hope you wrote that down or you recorded it on your phone or whatever. What Neel is saying here is start with the very first interaction. Most dental offices, Neel, will say, oh, I need to call all the unscheduled active patients. I need to start calling all those people and get them rescheduled. That's how I'm going to do better. No, that's not the first step. The first step is to do just like what you said. Take care of the patients who are right here in front of you, because they are leaving, even though you think they're leaving with an appointment, they're not. And I want to show you how to see this. So all of this information is past. This is what happened. This is, hey, if I want to change this, the only way to change this is by getting in a time machine, whether it's Bill and Ted's time machine or whether it's Marty McFly's time machine. You got to get in a time machine, go back and change it. Or simply click on the morning huddle. This is one of the features we provide for you when you get dental intel, the dental offices. And it automatically tells you, yesterday in your office, X amount of patients left without a future appointment.
And I think not to interrupt Curtis, but I want to point out that, you know, when I said that of you need to make sure you're getting the next appointment scheduled during walkout, a lot of our listeners and viewers may be thinking, well, we do that. I mean, that's our policy right now. We've been doing that for the last 10 years. You're not telling us anything new. Well, you may be telling folks to do that in the office, but you may not know that it's not getting done and why it's not getting done and what is the action now that you need to take to make sure that's getting done. You know, so it's again, knowing your numbers, knowing your metrics and taking action upon those metrics. That's the key thing here.
Amen, Neel. And if you don't, now we're gonna show you your own, all this information for your own practice. But if you decide to not get dental intel, that's fine. This is the one metric you definitely want to be aware of to increase profits in your practice. Actionable metric to look at offices to increase profits. And Neel, it's right here. Out of the 25 patients that they saw yesterday, 4 patients were not rescheduled for a future appointment. Now, 2 of the new patients were new patients. They came in for an appointment yesterday, and they left without a future appointment. 2 were existing, but there's one more section here that luckily they didn't have any patients in this section, and it's called broken appointments. Patients who had an appointment broke it and are not rescheduled. This is one that's highly missed, but if they did do that yesterday, it would show that patient's name right here, and you can click on their name and be able to see exactly who they are, what's going on. Their last visit was 2/9, February 9th, right there. Here's their treatment plan. Here's what's remaining in insurance. Simply click on any one of these and it can show you exactly what's going on. This right here is huge. The second easiest way to increase more profits is saying, out of your 30 patients who are coming in today, there are 8 family members not scheduled. This patient who's coming in today has 1 family member not scheduled. This patient who's coming in today that's blurred out has 4 family members that's not rescheduled. Neel, why would it be easy to increase your visits by knowing this information right here?
Yeah, I mean, when you have someone coming in or you're communicating with these patients, you know right off the bat that we need to make sure their entire family is taken care of. We need to communicate this to the patient and get them all on the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's simple now. Rather than just making sure that this SG, Sarah Gardner or whatever, I don't know who this is, but whoever that is, making sure, not just making sure that she leaves or he leaves without a future appointment, but that we also get their 4 family members scheduled because they're right there in front of us. They can't reject our phone call. They can't not reply to an email that we send them. They can't get our postcard and throw it away. We've got them. Talk to them and say, hey, I want to take care of your family members. Let's get them scheduled. We could get 1, 5, 6, 7, 8 more. Oh, Dad, the number's right over here. 8 more family members scheduled right away today without making any more phone calls.
Yeah, and a point to make here is, can you get into your practice web data and figure this stuff out? Well, sure. I mean, you can hire someone to just do just that. And now, is that the best use of your time? Is it productive? Absolutely not. Is it going to be this visually clear to your team, especially when that morning huddle section we were just on? This is going to be really automating this process for you and making it very, very certain that you're never going to miss this stuff when you're doing your morning huddles, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, new patients. And I used to run a dental practice, a large dental practice. We were doing about 7 million a year. And so we'd have a lot of new patients. Whenever I try to pull a new patient report, in fact, Neel, can you pull a new patient report at a
I
practice?
can. Let me do that right now. I'll share my screen. Give me just a moment.
A hot minute.
So can you see that report section?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you do that in this product?
So you would go to Practice Web Reports under the Reports and Standard, and we do have a new patients report right here. By the way, here's the button for Dental Intel, which we'll cover later as well. But you click on that new patients report, and let me just set a range here going back. This practice that you're looking at is not going to be uber successful, but looking at the numbers, but this is dummy data. But this is how I would pull a new patient's report. It just the basics, getting the basic numbers and information.
Okay, great. So what we can see here is we can see these are my new patients. Now, Neel, I want to know about Rodney Collins. It looks like we did $500. What was that $500?
I have no idea from this report, so I would have to get out of this report. So I'll close it and then close out of reports. And now I want to look up Rodney here. Check him out. He's selected. Go into his account would be the quickest way, and then just look at his procedures and see what was done here, the work that was done.
Okay, great. And then to go back to that report.
Go back to reports, standard. Click on new patients. Change that date range, click OK. And now I'm looking back at that report.
Perfect. So once again, all the data that we have is exactly this data. It's the same information, but it's on steroids now, or it's a better experience. Remember I was talking at the very beginning of we got music, we got audio, we got video, we got everything. It's making it a better experience. Well, same thing here. So Neel, if you don't mind, I'd like to just show how to pull the new patients for any date range here. So all I would do is select my date range, January last month, or just last month, go to source data, and this is now showing me the same type of information. Hey, date, where it came from, the provider, the patient, their insurance, procedures rescheduled, if they're rescheduled or not. To see more though about this patient, simply click there And I can now look at their AR balance, their treatment, whichever it is I want to be looking at, and it's going to show me exactly same viewpoint, but it's now 1 or 2 clicks, and it shows me exactly what's going on in their ledger, X out, and now I'm back to my report. Or even better, if you want to, if you're a real number geek, you can export this and put it into an Excel file now so that you can add or change the columns. Thanks for showing me that, Neel. And I hope everyone sees the difference of why technology, and especially, I mean, we're in 2021, having this type of information moving forward into practice is you're going to put yourselves above every other dentist in your community, every other dentist in your study club that you went to school with, whoever. If you have this type of information this way, yeah, sure, they can still get it, but you're going to be leaps and bounds above them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the process without this would be pull up that report, research it, dig deeper, then kind of collect all that information in one place. Now you're at the point after all of that work where you can take some to see that and then act upon it. What we're doing here is you take out all of that grunt work of researching, digging in the data, putting it all together, pulling it together, and you're just now able to see and act. That's all you have to do, see and act.
Why should it be even any more than that? The dental offices and the office managers and the dentists, you guys know what to do. It's the problem is, which of the million things do I do, right? Well, we shrunk it down to 4 separate categories, and now even more so on top of that, we're got the software to tell you do this X thing today. So Neel, I hope this is there's a few other features in here. So there's a bunch of dashboards, whether it's by provider or collections that you can look at that gives you past data. One of my favorites is showing like last month. Once again, it's just easier to go last month. And I can look at treatment acceptance percentage. And within treatment acceptance percentage, I can see, I'm actually going to turn this HIPAA filter off for a second. Last month, because these doctors are fine with me sharing their names. Dr. Cam, who's my dentist, right? He presented to X amount of patients and accepted X amount of patients. Well, when he's with Kennedy, his hygienist, he's at 70%. When he's with Chelsea, he's 63%. When he's by himself, AKA with an assistant. And this automatically gets done without them doing anything, shows them exactly who's doing what. What does this show you, Neel? You don't even know this doctor.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing data there. It's to me, it's showing that when it's just the Dr. Henninger involved, it's a higher treatment acceptance rate, and so maybe you want that doctor to be running that process. It could be vice versa too. You could have a statistic where if you have these other providers involved, then it's going to be a different acceptance rate.
100%. If you have multiple dentists, you can see this. But what this is also, I love how you pulled that out. When Dr. Cam or Dr. Henniger, when he's by himself, aka, when he's not with the hygienist, he's higher. Why though? If a hygienist is talking to a patient and the dentist, you should have higher acceptance when they're together versus than when it's just with the dentist.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's 2 things I could take away. One is either Kennedy Jones is doing something wrong there in Chelsea and kind of bringing down that percentage, or in those cases where it's just the doctor involved, there's maybe a stronger trust factor that's developed. Maybe the doctor's spending more time on that process of case presentation, and so there's a higher acceptance rate.
But before we were to see this information, we don't have the information. It's there in the software, but it's not displaying it to say, oh, this is what's happening in your office. Now, maybe it's because Dr. Cam doesn't like Chelsea and Kennedy, like you're kind of saying. So he's doing a better job by himself. If that's the case, we need to fix that whole process, because if we fix it, guess who's going to be taken care of? the patients. We're going to get better care. The patients are going to get better care. They're going to get more acceptance. And that gives us more profits. So there are other features over here, like I was mentioning, you have the dashboards. You also have the morning huddle. We're not going to go over the patient finder, but you can make any list you want. Patients that have unscheduled treatment more than $1,000, that have Delta, that have green eyes, that have family members, whatever you want, you can filter and find the exact patients. You can also see your schedule. This is a sweet system called follow-ups, so that you don't have to call a whole bunch of patients. You only have to call about 10 a day. And then reports. This is just automatically generated daily, weekly, and monthly reports. But Neel, I want to make sure to respect our people's time here as well, but this software, it's the #1 software in tracking, analyzing, but more importantly, on growing dental offices. We've seen this time and time again. The data that we have is over 10,000 dental offices. And here's the craziest number. I didn't believe this. I had to have my analysts break it down for me and show me. But what we're seeing on average, we're seeing $291,000 in more production within the first year when somebody buys dental intel. It is astonishing, but it makes sense if you think about it, because now it's, rather than just trying everything, we're saying, do this one thing today, right?
Yep. And two things I want to point out is, one, you get coaching, and we'll talk about this at the Q&A portion as well. But you get that guidance. Also, when you see uber successful dental practices out there, you're constantly thinking, what are they doing differently, right? How are they in this? Let's take right now, it's a difficult environment. It was a tough year last year. The people who are getting ahead or who are ahead of the curve, what are they doing differently? Well, this is what they're doing differently. Curtis just mentioned 10,000 dental practices using this, applying this, implementing it. That's what they're doing differently.
Yeah, it blows my mind on how simple it can be. I wish I would have had a software like this to tell me what to do today, and I would have been a lot less stressed, a lot more productive, increased the profits, but more importantly, took better care of the patients that I was working with. In fact, a good friend of mine over at Yellowstone Family Dental, this was last year. They increased production from 3 million to 5 million in 2020. Now, we all know what happened in 2020, right? Even with being shut down for quite a few weeks, they were able to almost double their production, because now it was brought to light and saying, oh, this is what we need to do. And they tied it all back to, very simply, we need to increase our visits of our existing patients. And they fixed that portion, and boom, they were able to increase from, like I said, 3 million to 5 million in just last year in 2020, which we're so excited for them. We're going to make a video on them, and we'll make sure that all of you have the same video, are able to see what they did exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, Curtis, you had some information on other practices that you've helped, some statistics on that. Do you still have that? I know we discussed, I think it's in your PowerPoint, but I'm not sure if you're done with this presentation yet.
I don't, you know what? There's a few others that we have that are really great examples, but I don't necessarily have a slide on it.
Okay.
For example, another good friend of mine who lives in Colorado, she started she's a startup practice, right? And her first 6 months, she was really struggling, and because she was focusing and worrying about things that didn't need to be worried about. As soon as she got dental intel, she said, oh, now this makes sense. And all of a sudden, she grew from just getting 10 new patients, because she was working on new patients. So in some scenarios, you have to be getting new patients. She went from 10 new patients a month to over 30 new patients a month. And they were starting to accept treatment because of this. Wow. Another great example is Dr. Craig Spodak in Florida. Some of you may have seen him. He's in social media.
Oh yeah, he's on that podcast, the Bulletproof Practice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yes,
successful. Yeah.
that's him. He attributes all of his success to Dental Intel. In fact, when he started his new practice, he was in debt, he was worried, and then all of a sudden he was introduced to us by a good friend of his, and he's been uber successful. His team members are all on the same page. Great, great testimonial of saying, hey, now that I know what's going on, I'm a better person. My practice is doing more profits, and my patients are getting better care. So those are a couple examples there, Neel.
That's great. That's great.
You already went over this. If anybody's, except for what we're going to be going over here in 2 seconds, you can click this button right there on your reports, and it's going to take you to a small landing page that will allow you to, which will be a secondary way of getting introduced to what we can do for you here at Dental Intel. But the main thing that we want to be able to provide for you is what's called to all of your users out there, Neel, and that is what's called a growth report. This is a $500 value that we charge out to dental offices, but because they're on your platform and you guys are brand new with us, we want to give this to you guys at no charge. So it's a free growth report, and on this growth report, it's going to show you the potential, the lowest hanging fruit for your practice, not for all practices, but for your practice.
And I think that's a great point. I think, Curtis, we have a slide on that too. If you want to pull that up, they can kind of see what you're talking about, just switching to that PowerPoint.
You know, I don't have that on the slide, but let me stop sharing and I can do it on a different screen here. Let's see. Is there a question that I thought I saw something pop up as I'm pulling this up?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a question.
I didn't look at it, I just saw the chat. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this, share screen again. So this is what yours will look like in your office. And I'm not gonna go over all of these because it's intense, but it brings everything together for you. So there's a little introduction saying, hey, welcome, here's the data that we pulled for you. And it says, for example, for this office, West Ranch Dental, we see that over the last 12 months, without seeing more new patients, we see that there is an opportunity to increase $1.1 million more than what they did last year. In fact, what they did last year was not just about $1 million. They could have done over $2 million if they would have known of these areas of opportunity before. So now we're going to start heading down the right path. So out of all these, it's kind of obvious, Neel, which is the area you want to look at?
Well, the unscheduled treatment for sure.
Right, that's your biggest opportunity. So let's check that out first. Check this out. So let's scroll down to the right page. Each section has a different page for you to read and understand. But they have, they diagnosed $1.3 million last year. 53% remains unscheduled. So $727,000 of new treatment that was presented within the last 12 months has not been accepted. And then we break it down into tiers. Hey, if you diagnosed $0 to $1,500, you have pretty good acceptance rate. Where is their money spot? If they diagnose X amount of dollars, what is their money spot in this office?
You know, it looks to me like if I look at the unscheduled treatment dollars there at the far right, that high level there, the highest level there has the most bang for their buck. 15 patients there. I would start there if it was me.
So that's my lowest hanging fruit, correct?
Right.
Now, where they're doing really good at though right now if they present somebody with $2,500 to $5,000 for this office, every office is different. If they present that, then they are getting the highest acceptance rate. So what are we doing different? And that's what they want to find out. What am I doing different for here versus here? And then attack this low-hanging fruit. There's only 15 patients in their office that have unscheduled treatment, and it's totaling value of $250,000. Find out what you're doing good here on that 25 to 5,000 and do that for these 15 patients. And guess what? You get dental intel, I'm going to show you exactly who those 15 patients are. But this is a great resource that we're going to give to all of your users, Neel, at no charge. It's a $500 value, this report, at no charge.
Yeah, we've been telling all of our clients, hey, jump on this opportunity. This is something that, why would you not get the growth report unless you want to keep your head in the sand and you're afraid of your numbers, but that's never a way to operate a successful business. So got to know your numbers. You got to start there.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have a little bonus, unless there's, oops, stop sharing, share full screen, and back. So on top of this free growth report, we're giving your users an extra little added bonus.
Really?
Yeah. If they sign in the month of February, and this is super rare, but in the month of February, if they do decide to join Dental Intel, our software, then we're going to waive the $1,500 setup. There's a setup fee that we have. We're going to waive it 100%. And you're still going to get all the exact same training and hand-holding and support, but we're going to waive this because we want your users to not have any, like, hey, I'm good to go, and we don't want to give them any barriers. So we're going to waive that setup fee for your offices.
Yeah, that's just incredible. I mean, I would not be lazy jumping on that one for sure. I would jump on that.
But with that being said, I definitely don't want to go over our time frame. I wanted to be a little, went much longer than I thought I would. But there's some really good things that we went over. Is there anything else you'd like me to review or talk on?
Yeah, I mean, can you go one slide or a couple slides back here? I think wanted to point out. So yeah, this is where, I mean, we talked about this, but this is where you can see that Dental Intel button there. It's on this reports menu. So, if you haven't signed up, you can click on that button, make it really easy for you. You'll get the growth report that we're talking about, and it'll be really, really a quick process to get going with Dental Intel. So just go to the reports section of PracticeWeb and click on that Dental Intel button there. So that was one thing I wanted to point out. And then can you go a couple more slides back?
Really?
Just before that, right there. So this is something, when we saw these numbers, we were really excited to get with Dental Intel because we want to bring the best value to our clients. We care about them deeply, and our mission is to help dentists thrive. And so, like Curtis said, number one, tracking software, analyzing it, managing and growing your practice. They're working with, I think it's even higher than that now, but more than 8,000 dental practices around the country. And you can see right there the ROI. They're always talking about what's going to be the return on your investment, right? And even with that sweet deal that Curtis gave you just there, and waiving that setup fee, what is going to be the return on your investment? And so you can see right here in the first year, if someone told you on average, you can increase your production by $290,000, what would stop you at that point? Nothing. That's an amazing opportunity that you don't want to pass up. And these are the things like I said, next level strategies, how to get ahead of the curve, right? It's a very competitive dental market out there. You want to provide the best care. You also want to do it in a very productive way and increase that revenue. So to keep you going. And this is a great tool to get you there.
Great point there. And I'll tell you this too, Neel. Most offices just simply use one or two systems and they're getting this numbers. The offices that are really taking advantage easily This is low. We're seeing multiple times offices who are actually utilizing the software are getting much higher results. And it's simple because now I now know what to do rather than running around with my head cut off.
Right.
And that's what I did. That's what office managers do. That's what dentists do, because there's been nothing in the past other than reports to tell us, hey, I did $100,000 last month. Great, let's do it again. Well, what did we do? Oh man, I worked really hard. I got here early.
We got lucky.
We got lucky. That is the answer. Or they come up, or we make up one. One of my favorite ones that I made up one time, Neil, is I told my doctor that we got more acceptance rate. We got more acceptance because we were baking cookies and it got rid of the dental smell. That was our answer. We didn't have an answer, but that was our answer, and it proved to be totally wrong.
Yeah.
But that's
yeah, there's this real trend in medicine, evidence-based medicine, right? How to provide care based on the evidence. What does evidence show? Why can't we bring that same analytical approach to increasing our production and doing better as a dental practice? So we got to bring that evidence-based approach to this side of it as well, not just the clinical side, but the business side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think another question I had, and let me see, I'm looking at the Q&A here, and anyone who has a question can certainly click on that Q&A button at the bottom of it could be the bottom or the top, but click on that button to ask any questions here. One question is, what is the implementation process like for a practice who wants to get on Dental Intel?
Oh, it's the coolest, simplest thing. So have you ever installed an app on your phone, Neil?
I have several, yep.
Yeah, right. So you do have to push the install button. Sometimes you have to push your Face ID or put in a username, password, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's in order to get this data, that's all you need to get. And from then moving forward, it takes about 5 minutes to do that. Everything's gathered for you and displayed in a simple, easy to understand, do this today. If you want to have training, we have both humans that can train you one-on-one, or there is an online learning center where you can go at your own speed.
Great. Yeah, that answers the second question too about training. So that's great. And yeah, and in terms of results, I think we talked about, there was a question about what kind of results can I expect in the first year. And I think we just covered that, but yeah, it's really, that's why I pointed out the average. So like Curtis said, you want to be above average, but even if you're shooting for average, that's something that you can expect if you really implement this and if you take the advice that our friends at Dental Intel are giving you.
Yeah, and please, we want everyone at the bare minimum. We can help you get this growth report, and you can do whatever you want on your own. That's the goal. As an extra bonus, we're at least saying, hey, for the month of February alone, you can get a free setup, no setup charge. But don't need, to be honest, Neil, I just want to make sure people know what's going on in their practice.
Yeah.
If they know that, some offices are going to be great moving forward without the software right now until they reach to a certain next plateau or the next rung of their ladder. But this type of information is now available for all Practice Web users. And
yeah,
really
it's just awesome, just awesome. Thank you very much, Curtis, and thanks to all of you for joining this webinar and with your valuable time, and we look forward to seeing some great results for you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Bye. Goodbye.